Hey, it's Ed Barzy here with Cincy Entertainment. And did you know that there is a ventriloquism museum right here in the Cincinnati metro area? In northern Kentucky, to be exact, Fort Mitchell, and it's called Vent Haven. I'm here with the curator of the museum, Miss Jennifer Dawson, and she's going to talk with me about this museum.
Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. So how long has this museum been open?
Well, the museum was actually established in the 1940s, but we have been having visitors come through since 1973.
Wow, all this time, I didn't even know.
Yeah, we are a hidden gem. It seems like we get a lot of out-of-state visitors, but more local press has been, giving us attention, which has been great. So we've had a lot of Kentucky and Ohioans and Indiana people coming through, which is great.
Now, I heard it's not politically correct to call them dummies.
You know, whoever told you that was wrong. They are dummies. They are
Really?
dummies. You can call them dummies. Some are puppets that we have here in the museum. And a lot of times we just use the blanket term figures so that we include all of them.
Okay, well, I was also told I'd feel right at home here among all these dummies.
There's a place for everyone here, that's for sure.
Great. So what made you decide, or what made somebody decide to open up a ventriloquism museum here?
Yeah, good question. The man who started this all, his name was William Shakespeare Berger, and his father was a German Shakespearean actor, and he was known to his friends as W.S. But W.S. didn't do this professionally. He actually worked in Cincinnati at a company called the Cambridge Tile Manufacturing Company. Started out there at the age of 16, worked his way up through the company until he retired as their president. And he was able to take a lot of business trips. And on one of his trips in 1910, he went to New York City. He saw his very first ventriloquist performance, and it was a man named Harry Lester, who also went by the name The Great Lester. And he was intrigued by his performance. He wanted to meet Lester. They did meet. They became very close friends and continued to communicate really the rest of their lives. And it was also during that trip in 1910 that he saw in a storefront window a small dummy. And he thought that would be a great novelty to buy. So he purchased him. He brought him home. He named him Tommy Baloney. And he performed for his wife, got a few laughs, but for one reason or another put him in a box and didn't get the dummy out again for about another 20 years. And it wasn't until a Christmas party came about that he decided to pull Tommy Baloney out and perform, and got a lot of laughs from his friends, and decided at that point this would be a great hobby to start collecting these figures and really anything that he could get his hands on that had anything to do with ventriloquism. So that's when it all began for him.
Well, that's great, because these wonderful dummies might be lost to history if there weren't some place to show them.
Yeah, in fact, Mr. Berger, he had a wife, a son, and a grandson, but unfortunately they all passed away quite a while before he did. And he recognized that the importance of the museum was the collection that he had, and he knew that if he didn't turn it into a museum and put all of his money into a trust, that upon his death, people would come in and buy off piece by piece the collection, which would, ruin the importance of it. So it was in the 1940s that he contacted his lawyer, and they established Vent Haven as a museum. And so that's why we're still here today, and we're doing things quite often the same way that Mr. Berger did.
Well, speaking of that, if someone would want to come by, take a tour, what are your hours of operation?
Actually, we don't have specific hours. We are kind of non-traditional in that way, but anyone can get a hold of us through our website, and also through emailing us and through calling us on our telephone number. And we just set up tours really what's best for the visitors. So if they want a daytime tour, we can make that happen, weekends or evenings.
So what is that web address?
If you head to venthavenmuseum.com, there's a link there to email me, or you can contact us at 859-341-0461, and we can set something up.
So I understand there's a popular ventriloquist nowadays named Jeff Dunham.
Yes.
And you have a few of his figures here?
We do. Jeff is actually one of our board of advisors. We have about 20 or so that kind of keep us up to date on what's going on in the ventriloquist world. They're mostly made up of ventriloquists. And so they live all over the country and they perform everywhere, and he's one of them. He's actually been coming to the museum since he was a young boy, and so he's very well connected to the museum. He loves this place. He shows up every year, at least once a year, and he's a big supporter of us here. So he has donated 3 of his figures so far, and countless plaques and pictures, and he's a big donator financially as well. So
you might say his career was really inspired by this place.
Absolutely. It was at least encouraged by the place and by the people that he met through this community, for sure.
Well, that's amazing. All right. So are there a lot of local ventriloquists too, or?
I would say there's just a handful locally. When we have our convention in the summer, we get to meet quite a few that are coming from all over the world. But it's a small number, a small percentage of people that actually do this, whether it's just amateurly or professionally. We usually say there's about 400 to 500 people that we know of that do it, but very small percentage. So I'd say 5 or so in this area.
Wow. So this year you'll have a lot of visitors because
Yes.
the 2010 Ventriloquist Convention is here, isn't it?
Right. Every year we have a convention. It's held right up the street at the Drawbridge Inn. And so people do come from literally all over the world. And it's a time for them to come and meet with each other, of course, just to have a good time with other ventriloquists. But it's also a great opportunity for them to learn from each other. They have workshops that last literally all day long, and they have open mic sessions. And then, of course, every night there are shows that people can just go and watch the pros do their magic. So it's a really wonderful time for people that are not ventriloquists also come just to enjoy the entertainment, or if their family members involved, they come just to be supportive. And like I said, about 400 to 500 people every year show up, and this year it's from July 14th through the 17th.
And that's great. So when they're all ventriloquists are walking around with their dummies, do they talk to each other with their dummies? Hello,
I think that's a common misconception that they're all just walking around with them. I think they have in the past. There are times for that, but usually there are the times where they're as people. They don't have their figures with them.
They're regular people
they
too?
They are. I know, hard to believe. A lot of them have other jobs too, so they're just like you and I.
Oh, good. You have any past funny stories about previous ventriloquist conventions?
Last year was my very first ventriloquist convention, so it was a great opportunity for me to meet all of these people. I don't think that anything really stood out as strange, I think. It was just really fun for me to see that people get so into this. It is truly something they really love, and they talk about it 24/7 at the convention, so that's unusual for me. I'm used to seeing the visitors who really don't know a lot about this hobby or about the dummies at all, and so to be with a group of people who love it so much and they devote so much time doing this and hearing them talk about it 24 hours a day, it's definitely a great experience. It's a lot of fun. Here at the museum, we actually just did a big renovation this past winter, and the building that we're in right now was pretty much gutted down to the dirt floor, and we have remodeled everything in here, which has been a great change for the museum. We don't get to do projects like that all that often, but we do have some other projects that are maintenance issues and things that will make the museum look fresh and new for the visitors that are coming back in the next year or two. We also have, like I said, the convention in July, and just countless tours, people coming through. We try to give them a fun place to stop on their family vacation. So this is definitely the place to be.
So how did you come to be the curator of this museum?
Actually, I really fell into this job. I was not looking for a job like this. I actually didn't even know Van Haven existed, just like many people in the area. My husband actually is a contractor, and he was the person that they would call here from the museum to do work on the property. And when he found out that the prior curator was ready to step down after 9 years, he told me, kind of the qualifications they were looking for, and he said, "How's that sound to you?" And I said, "All right, we'll check it out." So,
really? You didn't say, "I don't want to manage a bunch of dummies"? I
thought, this is kind of intriguing. We'll see how this goes. But once I met everyone that worked for the museum and I got to see the place, I was fascinated, and I thought, I love history, and I was a teacher. I was an elementary school teacher for 7 years. So I was staying home with my kids, and when I got the opportunity to teach still, but in a different way, and also to teach people about the history behind this place, that was what sold me.
Do you ever walk around here and say, "You kids, settle down"? No?
Every now and then they'll try to fall off the bleachers, so we gotta give them the pep talk about being good.
Yeah, you guys stay up there now.
Exactly.
Behave yourself. So who's the oldest dummy here?
We have two, actually. Two that are from the 1820s. They are just heads. Sometimes the figures didn't come with bodies, and so these are both called the Goldston heads. And they are, like I said, from the 1820s. They are just made out of paper mache, which means it's pretty incredible that they have lasted for nearly 200 years. They're in great condition. They have glass eyes, which makes them look a little bit more realistic. And that's not uncommon. Quite a few of these guys have glass eyes that an ophthalmologist would have used for a human. So quite often they were put into the dummies to make them look more realistic.
And that probably helps for the audience sitting back in the theater too.
Right, yes, especially for those vets who wanted people to believe that they were seeing real characters and not dummies performing. And that was sometimes done to trick the audience.
Audiences were actually tricked?
Sometimes, yes.
Wow, I did not realize
Yeah,
that.
pretty cool.
This is Ed Barzee at the Vent Haven Ventriloquism Museum with Jennifer Dawson, hanging out with all the dummies.
Okay, so Jennifer, now can you go over the whole interview again without moving your lips?
Stop it. Like I said, I am not a ventriloquist. Thank goodness.
This is Mr. Hand. Hello, Mr. Hand.
That would be the stuff you'd use. It'd get a laugh.